What up, Tiger here? Today I want to talk about teaching in Japan. Teaching in Japan sucks. I'm saying this very honestly, not to be negative at all. I've taught in Japan off and on for like 5 years now. There's levels of suckiness. Like, in my opinion, an ALT sucks the most because you can end up in the middle of nowhere in the countryside, which you can save money, which is good, but it can be a very, very extremely lonely experience. The work is less challenging. When I was doing an ALT job, I found myself sitting at my desk wondering, why am I here? This is like the biggest waste of my life ever. And there has been no point in my life I've ever sat down and thought that until that moment. So ALT job was like pretty bad. At Eikaiwa, I didn't have time to think about that. It was so busy. I didn't have time to prepare a lesson plan. Like, they gave me like 30 minutes to like prepare the class, another 30 minutes to magically pull a lesson plan out my butt somehow. Usually the night before I would spend like 2 hours, on a lesson plan ahead of time. I did this for like the first 3 months. And eventually I'm just like, look, this is a part-time job. I'm making okay money, but it's consuming almost all my time just to make it one day. So an Eikaiwa teacher they work you like a slave. First of all, if you're not like married to a Japanese or you don't have a permanent resident visa, every single year you're gonna be worried about the next year, do I have a job? And that right there is a problem. So you might lived here for 15 years, 5 years, whatever, but every single year you're still gonna be like, oh my God, scrambling at the very end to find a job. If your company's really good, you might not have such a problem, but overall, most people I've talked to, this is how it goes. This is my experience as well. Next, most companies, their ideas for teaching English is unrealistic. Your parents want this, the company wants this, and you are somewhere in the middle there. Like, the parents, they want their kids to literally learn English magically from you as a foreigner within a year or two. When it takes an average baby just to get conversational that much time, then the company wants you to do this at the same time being cheery and Genki and all that stuff. When these kids, a lot of them, they're kids. Most of their parents force them to come, so they don't want to be there. So the kids themselves are not Genki, and have you ever dealt with a kid that's like, this really bad? Well, imagine 25 of these kids, all against you, and you're trying to do your best to teach them English, but most of them don't want to. Yes, you can argue about talent and skill and all that stuff, but the point is, the expectations of the job in Japan are unrealistic and very, very difficult to meet. Most people barely meet the minimum requirements to just keep the job. Let's talk about traveling. Most people travel on average a half hour to an hour just to get to their job, right? So each company will pay a fee for your traveling. On average, ALT jobs will pay from $100 to $150, but if your travel is $200, right there, you're losing $100 to $50 per month just to work. Typically, Eikaiwas, they'll pay all your travel fee. That's not guaranteed. It just depends on how, big or small. The chains will pay most. The smaller ones, of course, are going to pay less. Okay, let's talk about insurance. Your insurance is probably going to cost you between $200 and $300 off your salary. So if you're promised $2,500, just minus like $200 or $300 from the start. It's good because you can, you have insurance and stuff, but insurance is really expensive actually. Okay, next let's talk about pay. Every single year, the pay goes lower and lower, especially for ALT work, but overall, it goes lower and lower and lower and lower. It's going to get to a point where most Western foreigners will not come here anymore, and they'll probably just start hiring Filipinos, Indians, and any other person that might know English and that will take a cheaper pay cut. So, like I said, as a Westerner, it's not viable to make a career out of English here unless you have your own school, like literally. Like 5 years ago, they were paying like $3,500 for an English teacher. 3 years later, they were paying like $2,500. Now they're paying $2,000. What do you think it'll be next year? Let's talk about training for a bit. Most companies, either they don't want to train you, or their training is really, really, really terrible. I mean, I'm not joking. McDonald's and Starbucks have better training than them. Okay? So the training is terrible. When you got bad training and high expectations and low money, it becomes very, very, very painful very quickly. Most people that have something positive to say about teaching English in Japan are either they're one of those people that really, really love teaching, that's one point, or they only taught for like a year or two and then they left back home to their real job. They did not continue to stay or stick it out. And at the very end of the day, discrimination. I don't care if you're white, purple, green, whatever. There is a level of discrimination no matter what color you are. As long as you're not Japanese, you will never be treated the same or equally in Japan. I don't care if you're married to a Japanese. I don't even care if you came to Japan, nationalized, you know everything about Japan's history, you can talk Japanese perfectly, you will still feel a very, very slight barrier from other people. Of course, like once they get to talk to you and stuff like that, the barriers might come down. But I'm just saying, just sheer looks, just looking at you, no matter what color you are, as long as you're not Japanese, you're gonna feel that slight barrier. And if you really can't speak Japanese, you're gonna feel an extreme barrier. In conclusion, teaching in Japan sucks. I'm not saying this to be negative or to crush anyone's dream. I know when you come here, because maybe your dream is to come and just to be in Japan, which is fine, and you gotta teach until you can find a better job or just improve your Japanese. I'm just letting you know the truth of teaching here, okay? There's many great points about Japan. There's many negative points, just like America and any other country. You can get part-time jobs as long as you have a working visa. You can even work at McDonald's, you know, they'll take you on. I mean, the pay sucks, you know, but at the same time, teaching sucks too. There's also restaurant gigs you can get. There's jobs everywhere. You just gotta look. I don't really recommend Craigslist. Gaijin Pot is okay. It used to be better a long time ago. There's still other sites. I would look for something local. Like, I'm in Osaka, so I can go to Kansai Scenes or whatever. Or if you're in Tokyo, they might have some kind of other magazine that might have jobs, stuff like that. Talk to other foreigners too, network, that really helps as well. Anyways, I'm hoping this video is helpful to at least one person in this world. Till next time, peace.